Всяка година в средата на ноември Солун привлича хората от филмовата индустрия от цял свят. Тук те показват филмите си, обучават студенти, дискутират идеите си. И така в продължение на 50 години. Защо кино сега? Това бе логото на юбилейното издание на филмовия фестивал. В продължение на 10 дни режисьори, сценаристи и филмови продуценти от цял свят се опитваха да формулират тенденциите в световната филмова индустрия. Ето и заключенията им. Президентът и изпълнителен директор на Fox Film Entertainment бе безспорно най-преследваната личност в Солун. В една от паузите намери време и за нашия екип. Mr. Yiannopoulos, how do you understand the logo of Thessaloniki Film Festival? Why cinema now?
I don't understand it. I think cinema is forever. So I don't think cinema ever stopped since its creation, and I don't think it ever will stop being a tremendous way for people to express themselves and for audiences to enjoy themselves. So I actually didn't understand it, but I think cinema is forever.
For me, it sounds like a little bit of concern about the state of the film industry now. Are you at all concerned with the state of the film industry now?
I think there's been a concern with the film industry almost every year of its existence. In the early years is what is the film industry? In the later years is television will destroy the industry, and then it was video will destroy the industry. I think the industry, like any industry and any economic reality, has its ups and downs financially. But creatively, I think it's more alive than ever. So I'm not concerned about the future of the film industry.
Now it seems to me that the question is more film versus internet. How would you comment?
That's not a distinction that I understand. The internet is a way of transmitting information and images. Film and cinema. Film is one way to capture cinema. Digital is another way to capture cinema. I think we have to be careful about our terms. Cinema is telling a story with moving images. The internet is one way to see it. I still think the best way to see it is in a movie theater. But if people can also see it on the internet, I think that's a good thing.
At least it's much cheaper, not to say that it's without money at all, but anyway.
Yeah.
What will be your advice to the filmmakers, especially young filmmakers in the Balkans? How could they succeed in the world stage?
Well, I think to try and get as much training as possible in school and in film school, and as working with other filmmakers, and to get their hands on some equipment, which is very inexpensive now. Digital cameras are relatively cheap, and editing equipment and software is still cheap, and they should try and make some films and express themselves, and hopefully someone will notice, and we'll have some great new voices coming out of the Balkans.
Той е режисьорът, който спечели почитатели за германското кино из всички краища на планетата и от всички възрасти. В Солун Вернер Херцог получи Златен Александър за цялостно творчество.
I think there are people out there who are not very talented but extremely skilled, and they still manage to make fairly good films. If you are, for example, someone who is very much into the technical side, let's say digital effects, and you are really good in this and imaginative in digital effects, I think in some way you can learn a lot of that, and skill can be accumulated, and you can manage some of that stuff. But poetry, and it occurs in cinema once in a while, poetry is not a skill that you can learn. You probably learn it only through life itself. The Mexicans, by the way, have a very good expression for it, pura vida. And it's not just the pureness of life, it's a raw, pure life. Go out for it. And the poet, I have some sort of another dictum, the poet must not avert his eyes. And that means go out and watch WrestleMania, and go out and work as a warden in a lunatic asylum. For the men, go out and work as a warden work as a bouncer in a sex club. That's where you become a filmmaker. That's where you become a poet, I think. So talent is something very hard to grasp, and I cannot really describe it. But you will sense it. You will sense it that there's something in you, and you will sense that there's an urgency to tell a story to an audience. If you do not have this urgency, the skills do not help you beyond a certain point.
Той е продуцент на филми, които променят историята на киното през 20 век. Достатъчно е да спомена лентите на Бернардо Бертолучи, Последният император и Малкия Буда. Как всъщност открива от кой проект може да излезе хубав филм?
It's very difficult, of course, to understand, but you have to think in the size of the film, how the film, whether it's going to be a little film or a big film, whether you can find enough people to be interested in that idea. And of course, if it's a film that is an entertainment or an action movie, it's bigger than a movie that is something unusual or strange. So, that is the important thing, is to sort of assess how many people are going to see your film in some way, and so that you can make the film in the right size,
What is your advice for the new filmmakers who are entering now the industry?
Just it's the best life in the world, and that they must keep the enthusiasm in this very difficult business. But it's always been like that, because many people want to make movies, and there are not that many opportunities. And to find a better idea than their colleagues. And, somebody has got to find, the best idea, whether it's a story about tragedy or happiness or whatever it's about. It has to be something very special. And that is what is going to get even the 5-minute film made, the 10-minute film, the 1-hour film or the feature-length film made, is the uniqueness of the idea.
In the digital era, the equipment is very accessible to everybody. The film schools all around the globe are flourishing. They produce every 3 or 4 weeks new filmmakers just with one course. How does all this affect the quality of the films?
Well, it's a change. There's a big change, because in the past the film had to be made by professionals only. And now non-professionals can make films, because, as you said, all equipment is accessible to anybody who has, everybody's got access to a video camera and a computer. So, but talent and being a great filmmaker, that's in very short supply. So, only still a small number of people, like in the painting or in literature. Everybody writes books. There are only a few great books. Everybody can do a movie like that, or everybody can do a painting like that, but there are only very few that get through. But you just have to push forward and hope that you're the one with the talent and the luck.